Not had this in a while. Yes.
Good afternoon. We're almost evening, but not quite there yet. So we're getting used to being set normal. So it's nice to have everybody back. We have entered back into open session from closed session for this meeting of the Board of Education for May the 2nd. And if you all will join me as we start first with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have a couple of amendments to be made to the agenda that we'll be adding under action items. Those will be items starting at 18. We'll discuss a chiller at the Westwood Elementary School. And then add a 19 to that. And that would be closed session action. And then at the end of the agenda, before we adjourn, you'll add in there a closed session, just a quick conversation there. Any other changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, if you will raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got comments from the superintendent, Dr. Cox.
So first of all, this is my first board meeting where it's set up as normal. So I've been here almost 2 years and I've not seen it set up like this. So it's really nice to have such a full house here in the boardroom. So we have a lot of things going on today. We've had, for the month of May, of course, we're closing out the school year and our schools are finishing strong. Lots of exciting field trips and opportunities for our students. Today, both the high school and the early college celebrated all of our seniors in Decision Day. I was able to make it to the early college because my son is a graduating senior, so I got to see he and his other classmates as they signed and declared where they're going to school. I know that the high school did the same today, so congratulations to all of our students. I can't wait to hear all the decisions that they have made and the path that they are taking in life once they graduate from high school. This is Principal Appreciation Day, as it is celebrated. We have principals in this room. Thank you for all that you do. Each of you plays a special role in the lives of children and in the lives of your teachers and in your own communities. And so I thank you for your leadership today and throughout each and every year. This is also Teacher Appreciation Week. And so I just want to say a special thank you to all of our teachers and staff who every day do more than show up for children. They are there to lead and inspire and prepare them in ways that, we hear the stories afterward of the exciting ways in which you have touched the lives of children. And some of them we don't hear, but we know it's happening on a daily basis. So thank you, teachers, for everything that you do for our school district, for everything you do for Ashe County, but most importantly, the things that you do on a daily basis to be positive influences for children. We have, of course, a visit coming up at our high school. So 9 o'clock on Wednesday, we're looking forward to seeing the great things. I think they're highlighting their CTE program at the high school, which you guys will get to hear this later, but our high school CTE program this year for the last school year ranked number 9th in the state of 115 districts for certificates earned. So that is a huge accomplishment for our CTE program. So congratulations, Earl, and all the teachers at the high school who made that happen in our CTE programs. There's a lot that goes into that, and we have some opportunities to even grow even further. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like next year. You guys approved for middle school students to go to NASA. And so that trip happens later this week. I know they are over the moon, excited, no pun intended. I don't think we're sending anybody to the moon, but certainly it will feel like that in the experience that they receive. And so, golly, I wish I was going on that field trip. I know Dr. Bogan is going with them. And of course, Charlene Horton, the teacher who made this all possible. But we have 19 students who had an application process to be able to participate. And so we're excited about that learning opportunity. We have all kinds of scholarship recognitions. I know the high school has one coming up later this week. The early college has one coming up in a couple of weeks. We have the spring play by the theater department later this week. So we're excited. We hope that the community comes on Friday and Saturday evening to see the Marriage of Figaro. We're excited to see the talent showcased by our students. Ashe County High School's athletics department is having a prime rib dinner this Friday. Is it too late to buy tickets? Or this Saturday, I'm sorry, yes, this Saturday. Is it too late to buy tickets?
He might have one left.
Okay,
Sure.
okay, all right. So let's hope. So sorry, hoping I didn't start a little bit more on who gets that final prime rib ticket, but we're excited for that. And of course, our middle school also has next week the music concert. We have graduation walks. Our students, our graduating seniors are visiting their elementary schools, hopefully to inspire our kids to say, wow, look what I can do later, and to celebrate the accomplishments of our graduating seniors. We have awards programs again. Ashe Early College's prom is coming up. I know Saturday was the prom at the high school. The Early College's prom is upcoming. We have testing, we have JROTC awards, And of course, lots of different opportunities for us to celebrate our children and the hard work that they've had. You know, I sit back and pause on the last 2 years, and there's not been a thing normal in so many ways in school. But the one thing that's been consistent is our children are learning, and our children are showing up every day, excited to come there and to see what's next. They're still curious about what they can learn, and we can't wait to celebrate that. So all these end of the year celebrations are really celebrating each and every child who has an incredible learning curve over the last 2 years, just because things have been so different. But at the same time, the consistency has been there that they are reading, they're learning math, they're collaborating, they're doing problem-based learning. Lots of things are happening inside of our classrooms. And so again, kudos to the teachers who make that happen every single day. Of course, we have summer school. If you haven't seen the middle and high school summer school flyer for some of the opportunities that are available in July, it's pretty incredible. So if your child would like to participate in those, you can contact your child's school. We also have summer school letters that are going to be coming out this week. Is that correct? This week? What, next week?
They went out last week.
Last week, okay, so summer school letters went out last week. So I know that we have a lot of children that will be on our campuses in June for those opportunities. And so we are ready to make that an exciting time for kids again this year. I think you guys might remember we had hundreds of students on our campus last year throughout the summer, and we will have equally as many students on our campuses as well. Next on my list is a recognition of someone really special to Ashe County Schools, which is Dr. Kurt Michael. And I just want to say that he has had an extensive career. He's retiring at the end of June, and we hate to see him go. He has been able to establish a mental health service through school-based intervention, both innovative and groundbreaking. We have had the opportunity to have this program called the ASK Center, Assessment, Support, and Counseling Model, here in Ashe County Schools for quite some time. It's housed at our high school, and we're just very fortunate at 12 years now? So for the last 12 years. I know that Jamie Little would like to come up and say something, and then Dr. Kurt Michael, can you please come up here as well? Right up here with Jamie.
So I did write it down so we forget everything. So we would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Michael for his years of service and dedication to the children of Ashe County. Dr. Michael has been with Appalachian State University since 1999, and he began the ASK Center in Ashe County High School in the 2010-2011 school year with the support of Ashe County High School and the Ashe County Board of Education. I have had the pleasure of working with Dr. Michael since 2015, and as I'm sure he can attest, he has taught me a tremendous amount about mental health and how our students are impacted. He is a visionary that is always exploring and searching for ways to help support the work within our schools. And in 2019, we wrote together, along with RTI, the U.S. Department of Education Mental Health in Rural Schools grant. I'm thankful for his expertise, his dedication to serving our students, especially in rural areas, and I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to work with you and learn from you. And as you retire and you move back out west, his work is going to continue in a new capacity with the JED Foundation. We wish you nothing but the best as you transition into your new chapter. We are very grateful for your passion and your knowledge, and we thank you. So we have a small token. This one will go into the ASK Center in your honor.
So this says, for his years of dedication and commitment to the Ashe County school system and the ASK Center, Our school can never replace his efforts. We can only continue his vision to provide mental health services to our students and prevent suicide. With sincere appreciation, we thank him for his service, Ashe County Schools. And this is in recognition of Dr. Kurt Michael.
Have an update for it. You want to do update now or in a minute?
We can do it now.
Okay.
Sure.
And so as a part of recognizing Dr. Kurt Michael, he wanted to share with you where we are with the services and the successes, and of course, the challenges that we've had with the mental health program here in Ashe County. And of course, a large part of the reason why we've been successful is, as far as our counseling services are concerned, is the special services that we've been providing through the ACS Center.
There's some slides right up here.
Not sure why we're getting this.
Okay.
Look, give me 1 second, Mr. Michaels.
It's in the board's agenda as well, so
It
we need
is.
to move forward. We can go ahead.
It won't, well, if she gets it up there, it will. If not, you
I'd
can,
love to show the slides if I can.
yeah.
We go. Good.
But first, I was really unexpected. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Cox, members of the board, faculty, staff, and administrators. I don't think that any of this would have been possible without all of the people in this room and people that are not here. Unfortunately. And I also want to tell a little bit another part of the story that probably a lot of people don't know. The only school district that gave me a chance to collect research information about young people was in 1999. It was actually Ashe County. A woman named Jeannie Cavanis, who might be familiar to some of you, who was the only person in this whole part of rural Western North Carolina that agreed to let me come in and serve kids. So I want to say thanks to Jeannie, obviously. Otherwise, this wouldn't have been happening at all. And one of the things that we learned early was just how much the kids were dealing with some difficult situations all the way back then, 23 years ago. So, and I also want to say a lot of these data were collected and presented and prepared by the brand new school mental health coordinator. Has been doing an incredible job. Elizabeth Curley Dunbar, would you mind standing, Elizabeth, say hello? More than that, Elizabeth. Anyway, just to give you some indication of how difficult this work can be, on Elizabeth's first day on the job, she had both a combination suicide and COVID crisis all in one package. And she performed incredibly well from the very beginning and continues to do so. So I just want to give a shout out to Elizabeth and a couple other people to say this work, but Jamie obviously does incredible work. But I have to say something very important about Amanda. I think any administrator who does school mental health work has to have a building level administrator that understands the work. And I have to say, I've never questioned a single time how much Amanda gets it. And so I just want to really give her a shout out for her leadership, her vision, her commitment to those kids. And again, there's never been a time where if I had something that I needed to help serve the kids, Amanda provided it. So I just want to thank Amanda personally for all of that commitment. So thank you, Amanda. All right, next slide, if you don't mind, Amy. So I just want to give you a summary of the key successes for this particular year. As Jamie pointed out, we were successful in getting a $2.5 million DOE grant in 2019, just before the pandemic hit. And we're now, we're just finishing year 3 of 5. So I'm hoping that we'll continue to get refunded, even though I won't be here any longer. But I just want to say a couple of things, a couple of highlights. I mentioned Elizabeth and her work. We trained Elizabeth initially in the most important intervention for suicide prevention called CAMS. And so she's been delivering CAMS care to the young people of Ashe County ever since her arrival. I want to say that App State developed a doc program recently in 2019, coincidentally. And this previous year, 2 amazing doc students, Emma Walker and Kim Holt, served the students of Ashe County with integrity and with competence. I want to say just a few of the numbers. So basically, we did some numbers counting back in March, and we counted as many as 160 different contacts with 70 different students through this program. That would convert to about 10% of the student body. So just to give you a sense of the scope of how much we're serving these kids. And also as of March, we were able to facilitate more than 230 family, school personnel, and community organization contacts, either in person, on the phone, through email, or some other mechanism to provide care for the students. That translates to about 175 hours of direct clinical care. Next slide. So here are some challenges that I want to point out. So last year, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey was completed. And this is pretty stark and pretty disturbing that the majority of Ashe County high school students and 41% of the middle school students reported feeling, I quote, feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge more than once in the previous 2 weeks. That's a pretty important indicator of all the stress the kids are experiencing. Also want to point out that 25% or 1 in 4 of the kids in Ashe County, both at the high school and middle schools, reported feeling so sad or hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks or more in a row during the past 12 months, to the point where they stopped doing their typical things. That's a technical way to talk about depression. So that's something that we want to take note of. And certainly the last bullet point is very important to mention. As many as 6% of the students reported in an anonymous survey that they made a suicide attempt in the previous year. So I don't know about you, but that's a pretty disturbing reminder of how much kids are struggling. So, and that doesn't account for other what we call concerning variables, like if young people think about suicide or make a plan. Those are also concerning, and there were higher percentages of those risk variables in the previous year. Now, to give you a sense of context, it's not necessarily unique to Ashe County. So a lot of young people are reporting these data. So a lot of our young people across the country are experiencing these levels of distress. I think the difference might be for Ashe County, we have the good fortune to be able to respond to these needs immediately through one of our doc students, who are obviously Elizabeth. Next slide. This gives you a sense of the crisis data over the past 10 years. We've been collecting crisis data. Specifically, these are normally kids who come up on referral for a suicidal crisis. There are some other types of crises that happen that aren't necessarily suicidal, but the vast majority are in fact suicidal acute crises. The numbers that I think will be, again, important for you to know, that's involved 354 separate students, 494 separate crises over the past 4 years. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of work that's done. On average, that's 36 students a year, 50 events per year. There's a trend line that looks like it's going down. That's a reflection of a little bit of a hiccup that we had during the pandemic. So you can see in 2020-21, there's a little bit of a downward tick, but it's now up on the rise. So this year was particularly tough on our clinicians, but I think we served the kids well. Next slide, please. So we developed many years ago something called the PEACE protocol, that stands for Prevention of Escalating Adolescent Crisis Events. That took us a long time to come up with that acronym. We divided up into different levels of action. So green would mean no further action is necessary versus yellow, orange, red, which typically indicate higher levels of crisis response. And then the total number of kids that we had to hospitalize in this previous academic year, I think it was a total of 5, if I have those numbers right. That translates to about 11.3% of the kids were potentially hospitalized. To give you a breakdown of the ages, we definitely serve the younger kids probably more frequently. You can see there, the 9th graders, we had 13 9th graders come up on crisis, and it was predominantly female in this case. Next slide. So again, among the 29 students during PEACE, 8 were house clients at the time of crisis. So you can see a lot of kids who we first learn about their situation, not while they're in treatment, but otherwise. So it's another way that we provide some ongoing surveillance of the kids that are having some difficult times. Some of the students are high flyers or come up on crisis multiple times. I already mentioned the hospitalization rate. So again, a lot of times the assumption that young people have is that if they talk about these difficult topics, it's going to land them in the hospital. Our data don't suggest that. Our data suggests that we can manage this adequately on the outpatient level. And even if we had to seek a hospital bed, the typical length of stay these days is so short that we're still facing outpatient management for the most part anyway. We don't have a lot of options, especially here in Ashe County. And if we do get a bed, it's typically in the Triangle or somewhere else other than here, which presents other challenges. So we like the fact that we can manage this effectively on an outpatient basis, even when the kids are currently going to school. We want to try to protect their ability to perform academically while still trying to address their mental health impairments at the same time. Next slide. Again, just to look at our signature treatment, which is individual cognitive behavioral therapy. We saw an average number of 15 sessions per child. We served 18 in this way. You can see the breakdown again. There's a little bit of a tilting towards treating the younger students. Here's some interesting information. So the average baseline score that we collect when the kids first show up for treatment, we call that the Youth Outcome Questionnaire, was 48. The clinical level is actually 29 or higher. So it's significantly above that clinical level. So we're not just dealing with minor complaints, we're dealing with very serious issues. And that's probably higher than it has been on average over the past, say, 10 years. So the kids are more symptomatic than they've ever been, at least the ones that we're currently serving. There have been years in the past where we've served more total number of kids, but I think the level of severity of this particular cohort was such that we needed more intensive, more closer supervision of these young people. And so that helps explain why that number both was high in terms of their symptoms and maybe relatively lower in terms of the number of kids served, because it takes more energy, more time, more expertise to manage some of those more difficult cases. The last little bullet point there really speaks to how they respond. Happy to say that over half responded with either what they call a reliable change or showed significant improvement. We'd like those numbers to be higher. We're always measuring this to see how we're doing. We'd like to do better. We're always trying to get better. So again, those numbers are, I think, acceptable, but we'd like to continue to improve that, right? Next slide. Okay. So the future, the grant does continue in years 4 and 5. I'm hopeful about. I might have Elizabeth talk about some initiatives. Do you mind mentioning a few things that you're working on?
So the student came to me probably right before Christmas, maybe right after Christmas. And I've been working with the student pretty closely, and they wanted to start a student mental health club. And so it's taken some time, and some of the students have had some additional continued mental health challenges, but I'm happy to report that our first initial interest meeting for the student mental health club is actually going to be on May 11th. And so that is going to be a great way to engage students in really what we're doing across all of our projects related to mental health. I am hoping, and we're continuing to work on several different resilience focused projects within the high school. And so really, I'm hoping to kind of collaborate and really blend these two things together and really get the student support for what they want, what they need, and engage them in a conversation about mental wellness, and hopefully decrease the stigma related to that as well, so we can better serve them and keep building these really important relationships. It's been really wonderful this year getting to know a lot of the student body pretty well. They'll even just pop by sometimes, which is really nice at this point in the year. So I'm really excited for what the future holds.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Just a few more things to mention. I want to say that we continue to expand and to develop our partnerships in the community as well. I think one of the things that's always been true with this partnership is that we're committed, not necessarily just to serving the mental health needs of the young people. We're committed to trying to provide comprehensive care so they can finish their education, obviously. And it's not just about their mental health success, it's about their success broadly. And so I think we remain very flexible and ready to serve. There will be somebody who taking over my position at ASU. His name is Dr. J.P. Jamison. He's been a close colleague of mine for many years. He runs Allegheny's Ask Center. He'll be assuming management responsibilities over at the Ashe County Ask Center when I leave. So think that pretty much wraps it up. But I would like to hear if there's any questions or comments. I'd be happy to entertain comments or questions. Anybody have any comments?
I'd just like to thank you for all your work with our students. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Dr.
We're seeing elevated student cases in mental health issues. And we do appreciate the ACS Center more now than we have. And I'm glad that we already have 2 more years that we can go further, and hopefully we can continue to grow working services. We still have several vacant services, and I hope we can provide those.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are also going to celebrate next week National School Nurse Week. And I think this goes without saying, the last 2 years, we have realized in so many ways the value of our school nurses. And they have really set the standard for care for our children and for our staff. And of course, every single day, they had full days even before COVID, and then COVID hit. And so I just want to say thank you to all of our school nurses. We are very fortunate here in Ashe County to have a school nurse in each one of our schools. A lot of districts, a lot of schools do not have that in their schools. And so we're very fortunate to have one, not just for COVID, but for all the other things from medicines. We have students who have diabetes, who need special care. We have students who have quite a few health needs. And then, of course, they get sick too. And so we are very thankful for our nurses who are able to care for our kids in that way. We also, in celebrating our schools, would like to recognize a couple of people. First of all, Roy Putman. Roy is our Director of Human Resources, and he participated in the Aspiring Superintendent Program through the North Carolina Superintendents Association with Jack Hoke. And we're really proud of him. He had some rigorous professional development, networked with directors and assistant superintendents all across the state of North Carolina. So he was participated in that. And I know that I went through that program a few years ago and thoroughly enjoyed being a part of the program and what I've learned. And I know that Roy did too, so we're proud of him for completing that and for sticking with it. But we're very thankful that even if he doesn't want to be a superintendent someday, the program is designed so that you can grow in the roles that you are. And I know that I've been very thankful for his leadership since I've been here. So I'm glad that he was selected to participate in that program and completed that program. So congratulations, Roy. And then we also have our North Carolina Principal Fellow. And so I want to congratulate Cynthia Harless. So Cynthia, would you stand up, please? So we are excited. She is an exceptional children's teacher at Mountain View Elementary School. She applied and was selected to be a principal fellow through Appalachian State University. And so it was a rigorous process. There are 15 teachers from across the region who will be participating as a principal fellow. So she will have a full scholarship that will pay not only for her entire tuition, but also a 1-year paid internship with Ashe County Schools. And so congratulations to Cynthia. We are so excited that she will be participating in that program, and we'll welcome her to school leadership. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay. And I'll tell you, on Friday, I happened to be with at Appalachian State University for the Public School Partnership, and they had some fantastic things to say about you. So congratulations. I know that you're in great company, but they had double that number of applicants who made it past their district's application process and interview process. So you're among an elite group of teachers who was selected to become an administrator through this program. So congratulations. And then drum roll, some of you have already heard this. We have been notified that our application for the 2021-22 needs-based public school capital fund grant has been approved for an additional $17 million. We had, from a couple of years ago, $15 million that was not accessed. And so we still have that money. So our grand total of grant funding toward our new middle school will be $32 million. And I'll tell you, this was highly competitive. They had almost $3 billion of requests in the state, and they granted less than 300 million. So I just want you to listen to that. They had almost $3 billion worth of requests, and they granted just less than 300 million. So that is a huge, huge benefit to Ashe County. We're very fortunate to get that money. I know there's some other districts around here who did not, who were not awarded that. I wish everybody could have their facilities needs met. We know what it's like to have facilities that are fantastic, and we also know what it's like to have a facility that needs repair. And we're very thankful that we're going to be able to apply $32 million toward Ashe County schools. So saving our taxpayers here a lot of money, and hopefully being able to get a great facility, which is well underway. We'll talk about that later on. And then of course, I've mentioned Teacher Appreciation Week. So that's all I have. I know it was a lot, but lots of great news.
I'd like to thank all those people who worked on this grant. It's a huge one, and I know several people that did work on that. Amanda for sure, Dr. Cox for another. I'm not sure who else was involved, but I know it took a lot of hands. But that was a big relief to get that money, and the commissioners love us. They really do. I'm very excited about it, more than we are, I think.
$32 million, it does not grow on trees. That's for sure. I mean, that's what our budget was just a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Next, we've got public comments. We don't have anybody under public comments this evening, so we will move on into action items. First, under action items, as usual, we are still required each 30 days to revisit the mask situation and vote on that. So I will open the floor for motions. You have the current information in your agenda of the current numbers within Ashe County Schools. So does anybody have a motion?
Chairman, I'll make the motion that we continue mask optional as we are currently.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, as always, I've done a single roll call vote on this. I'll continue that for this. Starting on the left, Mr. Cornwell. Yes. Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Dr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Eldred.
Yes.
And I agree as well, yes, for Mr. Russell.
Do we have any mandates for next year yet, or are we going to be relieved of this duty?
I do not know the answer to that one.
Information heavy channels are found yet.
I will move forward into minutes of the agenda. We have the minutes from the March 4th meeting of the Board of Education. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
Got two, that works too. All those in favor? Any other questions before I move forward? Sorry. Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the personnel information there. I see Mr. Putman coming up. We've got Ms. Ellen here as well.
Good evening, board members, and you have a personnel agenda and the addendum that was added today, and we are requesting approval for those.
Do I have a motion to approve the personnel as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the personnel as presented to us.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. I believe you'll stay up with us as we go into contract renewal lists.
Yes, these were submitted last month, and we're requesting the approval of the contract list.
And this is as we discussed earlier.
Correct.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the contract renewal list?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. We approve the contract renewal list.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we've got approval of to award endowment grants. So it's that time of year.
It's that time of year. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board, and Dr. Cox. As a liaison for the Endowment Board, I'd like to present their recommendation to fund many grants for the 22-23 school year. As you're aware, the primary focus of the Endowment Board is to support educational opportunities over and above the resources that are provided by local, state, and federal funding for the school system. The Ashe County Schools Endowment Fund is managed by the North Carolina Community Foundation, and we currently have a balance that I'm proud of. It's $324,138.92. So it has grown over the years. Since we began awarding grants in 2003, the endowment has dispersed $152,449 to educators in Ashe County schools. Each year, many grants are available to Ashe County schools educators to fund projects for their classrooms that provide new and innovative approaches to learning. You will see in your packet that has been provided 4 of our 6 schools had at least one submission, with several schools submitting anywhere from 1 to 5. You'll also see collaborative grants from elementary schools and from the high schools, as well as 1 district submission. While some grant proposals focused on certain grade levels, others targeted specific groups. Yet those grant proposals all have the potential to reach each Ashe County school student in some way. Based on our successful golf tournament in 2021, the Endowment Board has chosen to use proceeds in the amount of $20,000, and we added 5 to that, to make a $20,005 proceeds available. It is an increase, and we also increased the amount for each individual grant available to them was $2,000, so they could apply for up to $2,000 for their grant. So we had 17 grant proposals submitted, requesting a total of $30,518. So that shows you that they're interested, they want things, but we just didn't have enough money to grant all of them. But on behalf of the board, I would like to request permission to grant 11 of those for $20,005.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve these grants?
I would like to make the motion that we approve these grants from the endowment fund. And I would also like to thank all of those people on that board for all the hard work. There's more work than you would imagine.
Reading 17 grants can be a lot, and I do appreciate them as well. There were 5 members from the endowment board who did read each of the grants, and then we came together and collaborated and scored and discussed and
added
awarded.
$5 to the kitty.
Yes, we did.
So we have a motion by Ms. Eldridge. Do I have a second to the motion?
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you. I'd like to add just a couple of things, if I may. I'd like to invite the grant recipients to our August board meeting to have them recognized and let you hear a little bit about the grants that they submitted. I also would like to tell you that we're excited. The golf tournament this year is scheduled for July the 28th, and it will be held at Mountain Air Golf Course this year. And additionally, we are seeking new members for our board. We have had a few people move away or retire, kind of. They've been on the board a while and have chosen not to reinstate. So we're looking for new members for our endowment board. Got any ideas, or if anybody's interested, just let me know. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Go from grants to contracts. So we're on to the architect contract for the Ashe County Middle School.
So you will have the architect contract, including the Exhibit A. Also, there are the design team who would be responsible for designing that middle school, as well as an additional list of hourly rates for other services. And this is a long time coming. I know that we have been waiting for an opportunity to share this information with you, and so that you all, I know we interviewed back in January for the architect, and now we finally have the contractual services, I think, negotiated and ready to go. And then, of course, we have our new owner representative. So thank you, Allison, for all the work that you did.
We might introduce Allison.
Yes,
I know a lot of them don't.
That's probably true. We haven't done that
Yeah,
yet.
so Allison Sullivan, if you'll stand, Allison, she is the new owner representative for this project to build Ashe County Middle School. So thank you, Allison.
Excited. Anybody have any questions about the contract?
It looks a lot better than the first one I saw. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the architect contract. Everybody jump.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the architect contract.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, if you will, raise your hand. Motion carries. And next, I think we've got the JROTC with the overnight trip.
And Lieutenant Colonel Hollis had a previous engagement, and Master Sergeant's physical therapy went wrong. All the years of jumping out of helicopters.
Colonel Hollis, and he said, Sergeant Whitmore would be here. I'm not Sergeant Whitmore.
I am not, but it was all the years of jumping out of those helicopters, so his physical therapy went wrong. But they were very excited to be able to start this summer trip back again. This is that yearly trip they take to Bud Shield, to Camp Bud Shield, and really, the kids have a great week. They come back, they're so excited with how dirty and nasty and icky they've gotten in all their competitions, but they're excited to be able to take kids back this year. So I'm just asking permission for them to be able to take this trip.
All right, do I hear a motion to let them have overnight trip?
I make the motion, we let the ROTC give their camp this year.
Do I have a second? Any other questions, comments?
I was just wondering if this was a lower number than we normally have.
It's about 10 to 12. It's not a huge group. It's usually that smaller leadership group that do some of the teams again, then in the fall, like the archery ones. But because the camp pulls from so many different areas, there's not that many seats.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, we've got a ticket for you. Okay.
You just know that
Mark Payne's not over there anymore. He don't let us comment. Coach Hampton has. He did.
We're going into a couple of different items here. The first one is for the FFA summer overnight opportunities, and subbing in for Mr. Calhoun.
Absolutely, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Calhoun and the FFA crew. I'm excited because we're going to the state FFA convention, and I was looking for permission, we're seeking permission to take a group that qualified at the regional, and I'll tell you what they qualified in. And I just looked down and let's see. So they qualified in creek speaking, in dairy products, and in forestry. So we have a group that'll be going down and competing with that. The other overnight trip we're looking at is the state FFA camp. We don't know the exact week of that. There's a lottery with that. We know it'll either be the last week of July or the first week in August, and we'll know that in the next weeks coming up. The only cost to this for the students will be what they eat. With the new regulations with CTE, we can pay for anything except student meals. Now, some of the meals are included with the camps, but if they stop at a fast food or whatnot, that's one of the regulations. If it becomes the property of the student, we can't pay for it. That's an easy way to remember what we can and cannot pay for. I guess a meal is property of the student, but does anyone have any questions?
Well, I want to know if we're participating in that Gator War they said they were having.
Excuse me?
Yeah, the brochure said that they were going to have a Gator War.
No, we're not in the Gator War.
That sounded like fun.
No, thank you.
And it was Gator as in four-wheel gators.
Oh.
Okay.
Driving.
Not like
gator.
wrestling gators.
No, four-wheel gators.
There's probably a gator at the Lake.
So do I hear a motion to approve the overnight opportunities for FFA?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion with Ruby that opportunity for them.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? None, all those in favor? Mr. Pennington, we'll just let you roll on with some CTE goals.
Okay, all right. May 13th is coming. That's when the CTE Local Plan has to be submitted in the CCIP program, and I'm here tonight seeking approval of the major goals of it. I think if you'll find in the packet there that we provided, there's a lot of information, a lot of documentation. This is just a small strategic plan is what it is. And we started back in September, October, gathering our data, talking with our stakeholders, getting feedback, and then starting the process of going through and looking at our elements and doing our ratings. And then from that, we looked at what are we doing well in CTE, where are opportunities and where are goals. There'll be, I included 6 of the major goals after the CCIP program is approved at the state level. That will become public and we can look at all the goals from that. But I went through and tried to highlight some of the major goals we wanted to look at. Some of the things that we're doing well in CTE, and I just can't say enough for that department. Through changes, through the new Perkins 5 legislation, through the changes in what a pathway looks like, what a credential completer looks like, our groups just kept working on, they've adapted, they've learned, and they've been there to help the kids learn the trades of the various pathways that we do offer. I do want to echo the comments from Dr. Cox earlier that Ashe County did finish 9th in the state with the percent of credentials that we earned based on the number of students enrolled. That's a huge accomplishment. We were able to, we did this when we were coming to school A day and B day. So kids were there 2 days a week instead of 5, and we were still able to keep the credential completion up. We've looked at ways we can improve that, and I look forward to seeing what we can present in the next couple of years to come. Our graduation rate is it's a fact that if you're a CTE completer, there's a higher graduation rate among CTE completers, and we finished last year with a 93.5%. Program expansions, the electrical and digital design and animation and AP computer science will be a course this fall, and we're excited to see how that goes. And let's see, our MOUs, that's one thing that we had to really work on with the change in Perkins 5 is to make sure that our MOUs, so that our students were getting credit for the college courses that they earned while they were taking high school courses. So I appreciate the work with WCC with that. This year, we have 19 pathways that's been offered over 10 different program areas. We're super proud of that. That's included. What did we find out from this? Some areas that we need to work on. We're going to work on our male graduate rates for CTE completers. This data was reflected a few years ago when we looked at our cohort graduation rate. We're also going to look at the student credential potential, and I promise that's a real thing. So we looked at the number of credentials that our students earned. But now we're going to take a look at, well, what's the potential for our students to earn credentials? And in that area, there's an area for improvement there. We're excited that our CTSOs are back. All three of our groups have been doing overnight trips and competed at the state level. We're excited about that, but we want to continue that because we know there's more opportunities with Skills USA's to expand on that as well. Non-traditional course list, that's basically a list of pathways where it's looking at genders and who's taking carpentry classes versus who's taking the teaching as a profession class. So that's one area we're going to take a look at and to do some work with as well. And of course, we're going to continue to work with our community college partners to look at public safety offerings, whether that be through EMTs, fire academy, and so forth. Does anyone have any questions about any of the strengths, weaknesses, or areas we'll be working on for the 2022-2024 school years?
I just wanted to know how you measure the 90% number that you gave for parents, students, counselors, and administrators showing understanding.
So through a survey, some was informal conversations. Some, talking with parents, with parent groups, talking about business advisory, but the majority was through surveys, and it would ask questions, ranging from a scale of 1 to 4. What's your knowledge of the number of courses offered or the number of pathways offered at CTE? What's your knowledge on the number of honors courses? What's your knowledge on dual enrollment credits, where you can earn credits at the college credits while you're taking high school courses? So that's how we want to see an increase of that. And so at the end, what I want to see is I want to see positive ratings based on 90% of the surveys completed by these folks.
How many do we have completed?
I think we had 200 parents that completed that. We have students. We offer that out. And of course, the perfect idea I could say we have 700 high school kids that participate in this. If we get 50 to 60% of the surveys back that we've sent out, we feel that's a good field. That's a good mix of responses. So when we started this process in 2020, that number was down 20-30%. Folks, I hate to say, but we had teachers that didn't know how many pathways we offered. And that was across the board. That wasn't at one school or here. That was across the board, the different teachers that was asked. So in looking at that, that's kind of where we generated the baseline with that in 2020. That's a goal we're carrying over because even with the work done, school wasn't operating under normal circumstances. So that's where that came from.
I want to show my ignorance now, okay? I know about honors in our academic program. How do we choose honors in our CTE program?
Sure. There is a list. There's two ways. One way is it's called inherently honors, and the state sends us a list of courses that are honors, and we follow that coursework for those, and then we can do a local option, which I believe we have for Health Science 1, and that was something that was done prior, where there's let's see, what's my word I'm looking for? There's a process you go through to apply to teach a honors level course that's outside the inherently honors class.
I was referring more to the students, although that's great information, but how do we choose our students, or do they choose themselves?
They choose themselves. It's advertised, it's advertised, it's marketed, and then they choose themselves. So there isn't, so if you take, for example, if you take a carpentry 2, that's an honors class. That's the only level that's offered. It's unlike the core subjects where there's a standard and an honors. It's
inherently honors.
It's inherently honors. It's for everyone.
That's like Spanish 3 is inherently honors. So 1 and 2 receive standard credit. That's a state thing. But if they take 3, it is inherently honors because of the level of rigor.
Just to confirm, the Fire Academy, that is starting for sure, definite, right?
Okay, we have a meeting, I believe, this week with that committee. And the last time, and Ms. Hill, the numbers on that? Is that something we can share? Did it go up from the last time you and I spoke?
I think it was, didn't they have about 9 or 10 that were interested?
I
think they had, it was 6 or 7 they had to have.
Mhm. So when you and I spoke, I think it was 5 or 7. It was 5 or 7. I can't remember that exact number. But the last time, I think it was up almost double digits.
The two gentlemen from the fire academy came and pulled down everybody who was interested and got some more interest in it.
But we meet again on that, and we'll take numbers in, but I think the effort will intensify when we see the numbers. When it was sitting at 2 or 3, it was more of a collaborative talk, and this is the plans if we get more kids now, and that's coming in. And it's an expensive endeavor, but we're committed to make that happen because of the need and the interest and the benefit of it.
I think until it's a definite, and I'd like a monthly update on
Sure,
that.
we can come back next month and look at that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the CTE goals for 2022 to 24.
I make a motion that we approve the CTE goals for the which year?
22 to 24.
22 to 24. Yes, and I'm very proud of this work.
I'm very proud of our department.
Yeah.
We have a great department to work with.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? All
I'm
those,
glad you gave us the short version instead of the long version that I understand is out there, so you don't
You can
have-
read, you can feel free to read the 137-page document.
He's like, do you think we'll want all that? I'm like, no.
I'll share it with
Nobody
you.
wants to read 150 pages of stuff.
Thank you.
so all those in favor? Motion carried. All right.
Thank you very much.
Gosh, the next thing's the mowing.
I know.
Can you, if you can see it, but some others, I don't know.
Okay.
I just,
Okay.
I don't know why it's doing that. I made it so that people person went away, but I don't know
It's
what
showing
that
up.
means.
So next on our agenda, some of our school board members, this is showing up on their agenda is number 10, which is the mowing contract for Ashe County Middle School and Blue Ridge Elementary. So I think it's showing there.
I wouldn't say the people thing go away. I don't even know what that is.
If you refresh, it'll show up.
Yeah, hit the refresh button.
I don't know what the
Okay. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Baker to give us some more information now that we're all on.
Good evening, board. As attached in the packet, so I'm assuming you were able to see this before tonight. You were not able, you were.
No, it was
Okay.
showing up with a people person on assembly, and I have no clue what that is.
Okay. And I'll be glad to give you a hard copy if you need that. I've only got one copy with me right now, but follow along with what we have done in years past with the middle school. I've reached out to renew mowing contracts in that. Several local contractors I've reached out to. Of that, I have 2 responses coming back. That being in the packet. Right now, we're pursuing Ashe County Middle School and Blue Ridge Elementary. However, as positions could change, that could change the contract. So right now, we're moving at both sites. It could be to one site, which would just be the middle school, which would change the final number. So based on the contracts that come back, I'm asking the board to approve Premier Landscape Management for another year for the mowing contract for Ashe County Middle School and Blue Ridge Elementary.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the mowing contracts for the 2 schools?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the mowing contract for the 2 schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
Will you bring it back if we don't need Blue Ridge later, or?
If you would like me to bring it back, the way I've written that within this, one can drop off. We have the option to drop, so it just half the price is what it would end up being.
That's fine, thank you.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Next, we're going here, prevention of school violence. And I see Ms. Jamie coming up.
Good evening. I am here to request permission to apply
what's in a grant?
She's been, so just so you know, Jamie has been writing for the before and after school grant for the last, 6 days straight. So if she looks cross-eyed, if her eyes are turning, it's because she's been looking at hundreds of pages of documentation.
Yes.
So it's this one's pretty intense. So
It's
between she and Amanda.
It's awful. It's
Yeah, well,
terrible.
this is one of those really intense grants. So kudos to Jamie and thank you for Amanda
Yes,
for
Amanda.
stepping up to make that possible because this one really is a beast.
She makes me go, because I'm
Yeah.
hard to get going. This one, however, has kind of fallen, in my path, and so we're gonna hit it if you guys are, if you approve. We have already received one of the, Stop School Violence grant programs that we are currently in right now, for our threat assessment, safety assessment, grant. This one would go in conjunction with it, from what we can tell. It is up to $1 million over 3 years, but it really does look at, there's different areas that I included as much as I could in there so you could look over it. We are thinking, based on some of our data from this grant we're currently in, and from some of the stats for Sandy to say something and gaggle, that we could do some stuff around school climate and bullying. And be really specific with those things and real systematic and look at putting some structures into place. And it goes hand in hand with the other grants. So it wouldn't necessarily be a new position, but it would be new funding to help continue both programs. So it is due in June, early June. So I needed to get permission before we moved ahead. I don't have a whole lot of answers, but I can try to answer anything you have.
Jen, we've had this grant before, right?
So
Similar.
it's under the same road, like under the big house. So this is another room in the house. So similar, yes.
Okay, well, I've noticed that it's got training involved, and I'm a little concerned about the amount us doing SOR this year and the amount of training that we're gonna have to do. What does that look like?
So this would not necessarily be, this is not for teachers necessarily. It would work with our safety teams. It would be our support staff, our SROs. It would be different kinds of training just to put the processes in place. So the training is really more of a make and take workshop where we develop with these people providing the training, the people at higher levels to develop what needs to be put in place at the school. So it's not necessarily for the school personnel, the people in the classrooms.
It's not like
It
a
would be-
5-hour training for teachers.
Correct. We may have some of our counseling or, support staff that way, but it wouldn't be classroom teachers.
And when would it be implemented if we got the grant?
It would be awarded in October. And so we typically, if it's a federal, we don't even get award notification or money until after the first of the year. So this would be like mid to late next school year.
Well, I'm just concerned about, I think that our focus is going to be on science and reading this year, and we certainly don't want to put too much on our teachers' plates because there's plenty of training on there already.
Agreed.
Any other questions? If not, I entertain a motion to apply for this grant.
Make a motion that Jamie pursue and apply for this grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries. Jamie, I think we got you up for the next one.
This is the contract extension.
Oh, you're talking.
So this is for the Research Triangle Institute contract extension for the BHA grant.
So we are asking for approval to extend the contract of the current justice grant that we have in place. There's an opportunity, we were awarded that again kind of later in the year, and the funds for the first year didn't get expended out completely. I'm saying that correctly. And so there will be some funds left at the end of the grant cycle. So we are hoping to request the extension so that we can continue the work and utilize those funds.
Do I have a motion to extend the grant?
Do we have a separate RTI contact person in Ashe County, or is that you?
So with each grant, we are assigned a person. And so I meet with them monthly. And then the people that are also working with the grant meet as well. So for the mental health grant, Elizabeth and Brittany Perry's our social worker that's partially paid from that grant. We all meet together and we work on grant goals, and of course Samantha's on all those. And then this one, we have a different LTI person who's the contact because it's under school safety, so.
And then this information gets reported out to the schools by a certain, is there an RTI on each side or?
No, it just depends on the grant work. And so they are kind of our technical assistants in helping us push the work out.
Okay.
So each grant has the separate goals and then it would flow that way.
Okay.
They also help us with any annual and midterm reporting. I've never worked with a group that is as good and as professional as they are.
They do a lot of, they help us with the data collection and the reporting, and that's invaluable.
And that also helps us get other grants to have that information. So it's been invaluable.
We were able to get this one based on the rural mental health grant data.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion for this contract extension?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we continue this contract extension for the VHA grant that Ms. Little has presented to us.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions, comments?
Let's get Jamie something here. She's granting us a lot, and thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that.
No, I don't do that one, obviously. There are lots of people. out
She
there.
is an excellent writer, though. She digs in and she does her work. We're very blessed to have her.
We hear your name.
Let's give her a little bit more to do and vote on it. All those in favor? Now you got more to say.
I appreciate it.
She's doing it at the end of the fiscal year. I just love it.
Oh, yes, you bless her heart. Yes. Thank you very much.
Next, we've got on here for the June, July board meeting. Usually we do not meet in July. Kind of have it, so we do double up in June. So we need to approve a budget amendments, things there. So is there a certain date you were looking at, Dr. Dunn?
June 30th, so that would be the last day of the year. And that will give Amanda and her team time to make sure we have all of that information available for you all to approve.
Where's the amendments and the income?
Right, and that would be the amendments, yeah.
The first Monday in June is the 6th, so this would be the last Thursday.
So we will be meeting on the 6th, and then this would be the last Thursday, correct?
Certain time that we want to.
Whatever pleases the board on that day.
Any suggestions?
And is there, I mean, you'll have it done the day before, right? So,
What time? So anytime during the
I
day?
know, Mr. Cromwell's the one that works during the days of life.
Later afternoon would be better for me, but
Okay. No, say 4. Is that 4 o'clock? So June 30th at 4 o'clock.
So require motion.
It's changing your July board date.
Yeah, we need a motion to do that. So that way it will not meet in July.
I make a motion that we change our July 2022 board meeting to June 30th, 2022 at 4 o'clock.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the North Carolina Ed Corp participation agreement. Ms. Taylor.
Good evening. I'm just coming to you to ask permission that we can once again participate with NC Ed Corp. The purpose, they're a nonprofit, and it is very vetted. Not the first year. The first year when the pandemic, we were all struggling to find tutors for one, just people in general. But then this money through ESSER and GARE funding, the goal is to find tutors that have been trained. And so they focused their efforts on K-3. And so while they don't get the same training as our teachers will, they are getting training in reading based off the science of reading. And then they get coaches. And the ones that we've been fortunate enough to have this year have those coaches from ASU. And you can, I'm sure you've read all those details. It's a rather long participation agreement. But I am happy that they are trying to have high impact tutors and provide that for districts.
Julie, can you please relate this to MTSS? Because I see the tiers, tier 1 and the tier 2, and how that relates to our exceptional children's program.
So as far as MTSS, you could, with these tutors, they do have some training. Here again, they are not trained interventionalists like your wife would have been per se, or are interventionalists at the schools. However, they could help in the classroom with tier 2 interventions or pull out for tier 2, or potentially help with small group differentiation. So they are not necessarily doing those interventions, but they're helping in other ways, along with, helping with those skills that align to the science of reading.
Any other questions?
I have one about the model that we're using. Is that developed by Appalachian and trained through them, the tutoring model?
Well, I'm not going to say because I don't know who developed the training model. I just know that ASU is one of the partners with them that have learned how this training has the ins and outs of reading, science of reading. There are lots and lots of different companies, and some colleges like it, some colleges don't. But it will align. I can tell you that it will align with what our teachers are learning starting in the fall with cohort 3 with letters.
Any other questions? None, I'll entertain a motion to approve the participation agreement.
I make a motion, we approve this participation agreement.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Are you still, you're still with us? So North Carolina Science House contract.
Yes. So on this one here, again, I'm just asking for permission for us to partner with NC State Science House. And they will be providing professional development and coaching for our high school science department. This was a request by the department. If you've been a teacher for 20 or more years, you're very in tune to how much things cost. So this was something that they had wanted, but they always thought it would cost too much. And I appreciate that. I appreciate our teachers are in that mindset, but this is something that they requested, and if they're excited about it, and it is someone who, Michelle Benigno, I don't know, Miss Jones, you may remember her, she worked at the high school, so she's very invested in Ashe County because her parents live here, she's from here, lived here, and so she already has a relationship formed with a lot of those teachers, and that relationship, when it comes to coaching, will go a long way because they trust her.
Any questions?
She answered mine.
So all those are, I need a motion to approve the North Carolina Science House contract.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the North Carolina Science House contract.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I don't know if she would second it from NC State or not.
Well, I had to write a check there, so I had to take a pill, but I took my pill before. So.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. I think you just keep
Just one
going.
more, just one more. Okay. So last request, and I'm sorry I couldn't be definite on this, but I was afraid to wait because I will have to place orders for materials. I'm still a little worried about the supply chain issues, and I just want to make sure teachers get what they need. So I'm just asking that you would approve those instructional and curriculum requests on the list.
Do I have a motion to purchase these materials?
I'll make a motion, we purchase these materials.
I have a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Is it my understanding that all of this will come from textbook money?
Some of it.
It depends what it is.
We don't get that much textbook money.
Yes, we don't get much of that anymore, so we use a variety of local, potentially federal if we're not supplanting. It just depends on the particular product.
So these will come from different funds.
Different funding.
Different.
Mhm.
Okay, as they.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Carries.
Thank you very much.
Next, we've got a policy update and plan. Dr. Cochran.
So as you know, we have talked about a lot of different policies and opportunities for us to update policies. And this year has been particularly challenging with the amount of time that you all spend in board meetings, and policy oftentimes is very difficult to sift through, and it takes a lot of time. And so I contacted the School Boards Association. They do offer some policy services that I'd like to share with you. And they also said that they would, if you'd like to schedule a 15-minute call with them or a 30-minute call with them to ask any questions about policies, that they are more than happy to do that as well. So we do subscribe to the PLS web-based policy manual. So we have, or excuse me, their update service. And so each fall and spring, we receive policies from the School Boards Association with all of the changes that that are some are minor, some are major, depending on case law, depending on what's going on, of course, in the world. And those are regular updates. We have, we have several hundred policies, and those policies, a lot of them do need updated. Some are minor, some are significant. Now, the ones that we know, such as the Title IX policies that it required extensive training and other things. You all approved that at the beginning of the last school year. So you did those. Others we may not have tackled. After discussing with the School Boards Association, my recommendation is for them to, you have three options. One is a compliance review. It's a one-time fee of $10,000, but what they'll do is they'll come in and look at all of our policies and then all of the recommended policies, and they'll do a crosswalk. And so you might remember back when Roy and I were presenting several policies, we had a document that said, here's the policy, here's what's changed. Is it a material change? And then, what that looks like. That's what the compliance review would be. They would do that for all of our policies so that you could see what things really need change because, that have material differences between what's already there and what should be there. They'll also tell us there's minor changes the minor changes that might just be a footnote. It might just have a legal reference. It might be that one policy they're cross-referenced. And so sometimes one policy is referenced in 2 or 3 other policies. Those sometimes update depending on if one changes, the other will change. So that compliance review would be a step to figuring out where we are and then make a plan of action of what we need to do next. They'll do a non-custom manual project where they will just assist us in a step-by-step conversion. And they also have a custom manual project, which is obviously the more expensive one, but those will customize based on the school board's goals. That one in particular could take up to 2 years to complete just because of the number of policy changes that have happened. So provide you with all those services and the opportunity to talk to them yourselves about them if you would like. I think that if I were to make a recommendation, which I am to you, I would start with a compliance review so that we can really figure out where we are. And there are lots of policies that locally you have some influence on, and then there's some policies that really you can't change at all, just because it's based on case law and statute.
How long is that option? You said the large one was 2 years.
Right, well, the compliance review, I'm not sure exactly how long that will take them to complete, probably a couple of months, because that's largely them doing it. The thing that the custom manual project, and one of the reasons why it's so expensive, Roy and I, with the policies, have been going back any changes that we make. We're doing all the edits and all the secretarial work, if you will, that go along with them. We're the ones doing the crosswalk between one policy and another. That custom manual project takes that off of us, and they're doing all the updates. So they'll actually have that process done for us rather than us in-house having to do all those crosswalks.
Does anybody have any questions?
I guess I do. I guess I've just not had enough time to really process this, because I know we get copies of the mandated policies. And I would hate for us to rush into something that that is not fit to Ashe County. You know, I want to keep those that we can do optional to make sure that we are covering the things in Ashe County that we need to cover. I guess I'm a little hesitant to adopt policies that are geared for the whole state level when our system is so different than Charlotte-Mecklenburg or Raleigh or some of the bigger systems. And so I would like a little more time at least to consider this and to look at what they already send us. And I know it's a lot of time. I get it. It's a lot of time. It'd be a lot of time for us as a board to review these. At the same time, I don't want anybody coming in here. I don't want to be committed to policies that may not fit us as well. And in the custom thing is going to take 2 years. I'd like a little more time to consider that and look at, see how many custom policies we might need, and I know there's plenty that we don't have any choice with that are mandated. But I would like more time at least to consider this and to look at the possibilities before we adopt this.
Would you all want to hear from the company at our next meeting? We're meeting twice in June.
School Board Association. The one advantage that I can see to this is that their lawyers do these, so we do not have to go through Fred to do those, and I'm not sure what that money part looks like. That might even it out some as far as the money.
It's been a little expensive here lately.
Okay. So, you know, I just would like to table this if everybody's before a month to let me do some more research and consider more as a group what we might want to do. But that's up to you.
Explain. Look on the board. 10 minutes.
But if we do compliance there, they're only doing state and federal.
They send us those anyway.
Well,
So-
they're not they one.
So what the compliance review would actually do would be look at our current policies and then compare it to what is recommended from the state. And so you would actually have the crosswalks. What we receive are the state policies. We don't receive because they don't know what we have on the books. So they would actually look at what we have and provide those recommendations. But what I would recommend, and of course you could do this as the full board, if you wanted to do 2 of you, I could set up a Zoom call with the School Boards Association to talk about it, and then you can bring it back to the full board, whatever your recommendation is. We could do that however you want. I just know that we haven't updated some of the policies in a while. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of work for you all. And certainly I want to make sure that you all have the best tools in place in order to make those decisions. And they'll let us know which ones you have lots of local flexibility in and which ones really are, you know, here it's pretty straightforward. This is what it is. Most of the policies, however, you do have some local flexibility with. So that's why the non-custom manual project is probably not an option. It would really be either having a compliance review to see where we are, or look at doing a custom manual project. And I can understand that you probably do need more time and to hear from them what that could look like.
If we do a custom manual project, are we not gonna have to look at those policies individually anyway?
Yes, you would. But what they would do is do all the crosswalks between where we currently are and what the legal references and updates are. So we don't have anybody currently on staff that knows all the legal references. We would have to run all of those individually through Fred. And in order to make some of it, to really determine what is our local policy, and if you're fine with it versus what is really a legal mandate. Most of them, again, are going to have that flexibility. But yes, it is going to take time, and they can take it a section at a time. They can take it part of a section at a time. It depends on how fast that you all really want to go. But again, they'll provide that information. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine too. I'm just bringing this to you as an option because I know that we're going to have to start looking at policies again soon. Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I agree with Diane. Maybe table it from us. Take a further look at it.
So would you like me to set up a call? Now, it would have to be 2 of you to set up that call, or if we did all of you together, it would have to be a special call meeting in order to do that.
And they can do it by Zoom, so they wouldn't have to. We had a couple that wanted to do that.
I don't think I need one.
I think compliance with, as much as we need to make sure that we're following state and federal laws. And that our laws fit those laws and we're not breaking any of those laws.
And I don't know that we're breaking any laws.
Well, I mean, the way they change them is possible.
But there are lots of different updates that happen on a regular basis. I mean, I printed them off and it's literally this thick of the changes. Some of them are, like I said, it's a reference here, it's a cross-reference. They're very, very minor. But some of them are more substantial because some of our policies haven't been updated since 2013, 2012, 2014. So some of them may be a little bit different. Others, it's a policy, it withstands time and they're fine. I just know that we're going to be tackling this soon. And so it's at the pleasure of the board of how you want to handle this. I mean, we can tackle it without any of this. I do think it would be helpful, if nothing else, to have a compliance review of the policies to get us started, because after that, we'll know what we need to do first. And I didn't want to have I didn't want to do anything with this or with any other policies until you all took a look at this and made a decision on what you want to do next. I know we have some questions about policy through dress code and attendance, and a lot of that requires local board input, and you guys do have some flexibility in, but there are some more simplistic, very simple policies that the School Boards Association has. And so they'll show us the bare minimum, and some of ours are, 15 pages long. And then really the recommendations are 1 or 2. So
If we bought the compliance review, would it apply to the custom meeting? So after the compliance, we needed something more.
I can ask that question, but I believe so. It's very expensive. That's why I'm bringing it to you all, because it's really.
Do a couple of y'all want to sit in on a Zoom call with them just to kind of get some more information? He said he would.
No.
Sit in on a Zoom call?
Maybe or maybe not. It depends on when it
When it
is.
is.
Well, I can schedule around. I can schedule
You'll
around
get
you. I
some
can
dates
call them. I can get some dates if you
Is
want to give
there-
me dates
Is there a fee for that?
for the Zoom call. No. We're members. We
I thought
already
we already
subscribed to
paid those
TLS.
fees.
They talked to me for an hour the other day
No
about.
one took about 10 minutes.
policies.
That's right.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay,
I talked to them regularly.
so I guess we'll table this item here until we get some more information. We're looking at that follow-up.
Yes, I'd like to make the motion that we table this particular issue until next month. And we have a chance for us to read and talk to the State Board Association so we can figure this out a little better.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
So
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Motion carries.
I've been here too long.
Next, we've got on here, Westwood Elementary School chiller replacement. And Mr. Baker coming in the back.
Good evening again. Unfortunately, I need to ask for another time slot due to the chiller at Westwood Elementary School, which is the unit that controls the air conditioning for the entire school, with the exception of there's some server rooms that we can still keep cool, in the kitchen and servant area, we can still keep cool. However, the chiller, by the recommendation of Brady Train, I had a service tech come last week. In short, the gas and water exchanger has failed, allowing water to go in where the gas should be. It's frozen, busted, ruptured in several places. So I'm recommending that we replace this unit. And with that being said, I put a couple of notes down here that I think needs to be said. One, this unit was installed in 2003, so it's approaching the end of life, or end of life, depending on which place you read. And currently, there is an expected lead time of 6 months for a new chiller. So I just need to lay that out there early, and that is at the very best. And I'm hearing that from several different places. There's a couple different ways that we could look at for purchasing one. I'm electing, if the board approves, to go back with Matthew Ward with DPI, who is the same gentleman that drew up the specifications for our air conditioning for the gymnasiums. There was another means that Amanda was gracious enough to sit with me in here. But if there's a 6 month lead time, both places, that puts it getting here somewhere in November. So it's really not going to matter to advertise. And I think we could acquire that a little bit less expensive if we go back to Matthew. So I'm requesting permission to move forward with the procedures involved in acquiring or purchasing a new chiller for Westwood Elementary.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion that we allow Mr. Becker to go ahead with whatever he needs to do to purchase the chiller for Westwood. I'm sure it's necessary.
Second.
Second. All right. Do I have a motion to second? Any questions?
What are we gonna do in the meantime? Because
Windows that are operable. Now there's a couple options that I've looked at and we discussed. One of those, there is a rental service that's out there. The checking on that today, the problem lie within that, if there's a rental chiller available, that's first one. Second is it's very, very expensive. The tune of excess, somewhere around $15,000 a month to rent that chiller.
well, I'm looking at two principals that don't have centralized air conditioning, correct?
That's right.
So,
We'll be okay.
I mean, I'm just wondering, you know, of course, we'd love to have that for all of them, and I brought that up before, that we need central air for all of those. So what other chillers do we have that we might be?
There is nothing in reference to air conditioning. The windows doesn't work well for any kind of window unit. They're not the style window you'd want to do. We definitely would not choose to remove those. There are some standalone units that we've looked at. I'm not sure the quantity that would be available. The thing about this is, and I'm not deep into it yet, but everybody down the state, everybody's experiencing the same thing. So that's the reason the rentals aren't available. That's the reason several of these units are not available. But the window units, I don't think is an option. The standalones is possible. They'd be 110. I don't know that it'd be the best scenario for a big classroom, but we would be able to supply the electricity, and we would have to put the exhaust up into the attic space.
Unfortunately, it seems to be getting hotter and hotter in the early summer, early fall than it used to be. Yeah, I'm just concerned about students functioning in that kind of heat.
I wish I had
We have
better
plenty-
control
we
over air
have plenty of
conditions.
materials. Yeah, me too.
The rooms do have ceiling fans. Right, no?
No,
No,
yeah,
those
so-
they have ceiling fans. I didn't know about that. Okay. No.
Well,
Do the best we can for that.
yeah, my suggestion is to try to come up with a plan that's not very too expensive, to go ahead and, we've already got a motion to go ahead and. Actually, but it's.
I can explore both avenues with numbers. I know the one fairly clearly with the if it's available, and the only hidden in that is there's a cost to install to get it up and operable. And depending on what's involved, I had a group come and look at that last Thursday, I believe. And they were gathering some numbers for me on that and to see if the unit was available. I just don't have that back yet.
What's the tonnage you're looking for?
200 ton,
And how much was that rental?
15,000 a month.
How much you say?
And that included some
If we buy
installation.
the new one, how much they got?
Well, I can't give you an exact number until we get bids back, but going the non-bid route was about $220,000.
And there's a $5,000 to $15,000 installation for that rental facility. So you have to pay on top of the 15,000.
And then you're taking it out.
And you're taking it out.
That's correct.
You have to pay to take it out.
They did not mention that.
That'll come up later.
How about a rent-to-own policy?
I wish it was available. I think we could turn the unit around fairly quick if it's available to get. It's just not available. Anything else?
Any other questions?
I might have one for Allison, since she's still here. Allison, in your experience doing these kinds of things for new buildings, is there any recommendations you could help us with on this?
It's a bad situation. I mean, you can't really rent to own because these units are on wheels. So, I mean, it's a bad situation because of the current environment with the market. Everybody's waiting around to get materials, so that's working against you. We had a similar situation at ASU where we had to get a rental for a science building, and we had no choice. We had to go ahead and rent it. So
Is there a way to do?
Jerry's doing exactly what
Or anything for rooms since they don't have ceiling fan?
Is there one? I'm sorry.
Like a floor fan or something that they can, are those allowed?
If it's commercially rated.
Okay. We used to stick the box fan in the window all the time. So we got a motion in a second. All those in favor? Junior Hall, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next under action item that was an addition that we made to the agenda was number 19, which is closed session action on that. The board did meet earlier in closed session, and I think we have some information there to act on. Folks know. For any motions from closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we pursue an option to gain more information about property and add a closed session to the end to discuss that a little further again.
Okay, so I have a motion.
A second.
Second. Any other questions or comments on the current motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, if you will raise your hand. Motion carries.
I have a second item from that closed session. I'd like to make a motion, we amend the procedures for recruiting and retention of administrators with Ashe County Schools to include board representation.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any questions or discussions on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Motion carries. Okay. Next, we've got updates, discussion items. We've got the 22-23 budget presentation for Ashe County coming up.
So you've all seen that a couple of times. I put that on there for information from a reference standpoint. And so there's really not a presentation here. The update to it is that we will share this information with county commissioners on Monday, June 6th. So I think I originally had shared that this information last month would be shared in May. However, the date is actually in June. So we'll be presenting that formally on June 6th.
Can I get some further explanation on paving at the high school? It's a little almost being paved.
Well, this is a request to pave. And so this was the entire, Jerry, if you have paving at the high school, it was the pretty much the entire high school lot, and it was taking it down to.
Yeah, that's taking it all the way down to the substrate. It's taking everything off. The way that budget was put out there was for all of it, but it's also broken down in sections. So I have it broken down in sections if we chose to go that route.
That's taking care of all the streets, not just the parking lot streets.
That's not taking care. The main street has its own separate bid that's in there, but we share that street. So there would be conversations to be had. But it does take care of everything that circles the front parking lot around back down to the field and all of that stuff.
Any other questions? Thanks, go ahead.
I'd just like to commend Dr. Cox and whomever helped with that budget presentation. It looks very professional and it looks very, very good, and we appreciate that hard work because I think that, from what I've heard, the commission's impressed as well that we took the time to make it look good.
It is to Amanda. I think we make a good team there. She's anyway, she's good with numbers and words.
Next, we've got summer school opportunities flyer.
So we're really excited about, again, the summer school opportunities that we have. We really rethought how to do summer school last year and made some changes in what opportunities students had. We offered some bridge programs, which we are continuing. We had your traditional summer school, but it was expanded, and thank goodness that we had the ESSER funds to be able to put those offerings in place. This year, we are offering all of those things again too. However, what we wanted to do was have a camp style atmosphere where students were engaged with people in our community and had the opportunity to really explore. And so the summer camp adventures that you see are happening in July, and they'll get to explore career paths with fun, hands-on adventures. And the only thing that we asked of our teachers, because they got to create it, whatever they thought was going to be fun, engaging for our kids. We did have feedback from students to say what they would be interested in attending. But the only thing we really asked was that they partner with businesses in our community in order to have this summer adventure. And so that, if you look at the number of businesses on here, it's absolutely fantastic, the number of partners that we have for this summer programming. And so for the going outside careers in the field, they're going to be looking at biology and geology and farming and wildlife and forestry. And they're going to be really hands-on to see all kinds of careers that happen in the outdoors, which we are really excited to ensure that our kids have the opportunity to see right here in Ashe County. Atoms in Motion is really looking at a high-level chemistry. And so they're looking at what they're going to be visiting things like AEB and Runco and United ChemCon. They're going to be doing things like electrical circuits and building them, learning code through using Raspberry Pi, and being able to do power meter testing. So our students are going to be exposed to a wide variety of opportunities. Blast off with rocketry, they get to actually build their own rockets. And so they will start off small and be able to launch them throughout the time. So they're going to not only learn about the different challenges surrounding them, but how to problem solve through those challenges. So lots of physics, lots of mathematics, but really lots of fun in that particular one. We have looking behind the lens of a videographer, so something very different. So students are going to look from logistics of shooting video. They're going to have opportunities to work on video projects and chronicle them as well. And they're going to be able to plan out their projects and shots and what they need to do to pull it all together. And then another one is just for the health of it. And so for this particular one, they're going to be looking at all different types of health fields. And students will be able to see everything from physical therapy and occupational therapy to your traditional nursing and doctors to things like radiography. And they're going to take some field trips to Duke and Baptist and right here to Ashimataga hospitals. They're going to visit post-secondary institutions that offer the credentials to get them there. So both WCC and ASU. And then they're going to look at some of the maybe non-traditional ways that people always think about hospitals with healthcare, but they're going to look at long-term care facilities and different specialty areas as well. So we're very excited about the different pathways students are going to be able to explore this summer. And then we've also partnered with Wilkes Community College, and they're going to offer some STEAM courses as well. And so the first one to all of our students for the STEAM courses, of course, is free, and you can read about their opportunities as well. So we're excited about the hands-on science integrated right here in Ashe County so that we can see what's available without students going outside of the county.
Going on from there, I think we've got some professional learning opportunities.
We do.
To talk about that.
And so I'm really excited about the professional learning opportunities. I know that some things are mandated by the state. We can't control that. So our elementary teachers will be going through the letters training. We're in the third cohort that starts this fall. I get to go through some special training for superintendents starting this week. Julie and principals and their leads at the schools have been doing the training all year long in preparation for what our teachers will do. We're looking at resources and other things to support them throughout the year. And then you all, we're very thankful that you all approved a calendar that took into consideration the requirements that our teachers would go through all next year. So we're very appreciative of that. So in February, I think I told you that I had sent out a survey to our teachers to ask them about their professional development needs. All teachers have to earn CEUs. They have certain numbers that they have to have every single year in order to be able to renew their license at the end of the cycle. And so we want to make sure that they are supported in those professional learning needs. And we had our beginning teachers of the year and our teachers of the year on our teacher leadership council to review the surveys and provide us with some feedback and priorities. And out has come some of these professional learning opportunities. And as you can see by the variety of opportunities that are listed there, our teachers have a variety of ways in which they want to do professional development. So what we're doing is utilizing mostly ESSER funds, but some Title II funds. We have some funds that are from our RESA. They've opened up some funds for districts to be able to spend in this way so that we can provide and meet the needs and requests of our teachers. And so the science house that you all just approved for the biology teachers at the high school is one of those examples. That was spawned directly from teacher requests. They met with the science house, they had a needs assessment, and then that plan of action came from them. So we are We had requests for teachers to go to conferences. It's been quite a few years since teachers have had the opportunity to go to conferences. And we want to be able to support them in being able to do that. So we sent a group of teachers to NC Ties. We are sending a group to ISTE. We have a couple of teachers who, we had several teachers who went to Get Your Teach On and were so excited to get to participate in that they want to bring it back here to Ashe County so we can experience it here. We brought in Weston Kieschnick, who had 50 teachers who chose to show up for a day of professional development back in March, and it was really fantastic. They got 2 of his books and some goodies to take away, and we're really appreciative of that opportunity. We have teachers that have requested to have in-house planning period training and just time to actually plan. So you can see that on that list, there are opportunities for grade level teachers this summer. We'll pay them to come in and plan together. So we want to make sure that we are doing it real time where teachers have requests. Now we can't accommodate every single request, but we're going to accommodate as many as we can. There are some, for example, so we have some 90-minute block. We've had lots of requests for teaching within a 90-minute block that we will help to support the middle and high school throughout the year in that training. Other times it may be that we bring in somebody of their choice to help plan. It may be that they need inspired differently so that we send them to a conference. These are a list of opportunities for our teachers to learn in ways that are meaningful to them. And it's not just teachers. We have our teaching assistants, we have guidance counselors, we have administrators. So this is going to give them opportunities with the feedback that they have provided to serve their professional learning needs. And so with that time built in for middle and high school, this is really an opportunity for us to structure it in ways that they have requested. Now, again, it's not going to meet everybody's needs, but we're doing our best to do that. I think it's far different than what we have in the past.
Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Cox or Ms. Taylor about any of these 2 opportunities? Hearing none, we do have the additional item of the closed session, so I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman, motion to go into closed session.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Thank y'all, everybody. This evening. Take a break.
Appreciate you.
It's hot here.